Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the launch of the Poetry Business Competition winners pamphlets and their two runners-up. Peter's going to introduce everyone, but everyone's going to read for about 10 or 12 minutes, so the whole event should be about an hour. And I'll leave it to you. Say who's going to read in what order.
Yeah, I don't mind saying that we're wrong-footed, but a cat. Our cats just jumped up on here and
jumped up on the keyboard and
as they do,
almost, detached everything.
But that won't deter anyone. We know there's a big audience, and we're very glad that you've come along this evening. Yeah. We're delighted. We were really sorry not to be able to publish Sally Baker and Ilse Pedler this time. We have published Sally before, yeah. And we know Ilse's work very well, and we're delighted that they can read for us tonight. And also reading are the poets who have the pamphlets, which is Ian Harker and Anina Zheng Hardy. They'll all be reading for the as answers between 10 and 12 minutes. I'm going to introduce, well, embarrass first of all, Sally Baker. Sally, all the things are anonymous, and they're sent to the judge. Last year's, as this year, the judge was Kim Moore, and a former winner of this competition. And Sally's a reader in residence for the Reader. She teaches poetry and is currently studying for a PhD in place writing studies at MMU. Her poems have appeared in a number of places, including, I see, The North and Strix, which, but it sounds a bit incestuous, this, but Ian Harker is editor of Strix, and but anyway, nobody knew what was happening. Also, a very good anthology from Nine Archers after Sylvia Plath, that is. And she had a pamphlet published by us, The Sea and the Forest, still a beautiful book, a collection, which was shortlisted, one of the poems was shortlisted for the Forward Prize. She was born in Suffolk and now lives in the Pennines, where she grows flowers. That's fantastic. Here is Sally Baker.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. I was absolutely delighted to be one of the runners-up in this competition, and I'm really looking forward to reading and also to hearing the others reading this evening. So yeah. This first poem I'm going to read is about moss. I absolutely love moss. And it's also about falling in love. So it's kind of a combination of the two. And it's called The Year We Fell in Love with Moss. We made our beds in its mounds, and all our furniture was covered in mossy bays. We swam through velvet-lined tunnels, swagged ourselves in greenness all winter. It was the green algae, the green of pond algae, the painted shed at the bottom of the old garden, kale, tourmaline, the needle-cord skater's dress I wore in 1979. It was the emerald brilliance of moray eels, of tree snails, pea soup green. We were moss creatures, felted deep in woods. It was the first plant on Earth, at least 450 million years old, its rhizoids like a forest of stars, rootless, absorbing moisture and minerals from rain, surviving in the harshest of climates. We became bryophiliacs, singing hymns in the sunken moss cathedrals, while light through the leaves flickered over us in waves, like signals as if we'd been blessed. I believed moss could live forever. You told me about the bargest who haunted the valley, could turn you to stone with a look. A few years ago, I ran a workshop in a stately home, and there was a notice on the toilet door warning people about the poisonous wallpaper, because it said it might have been the kind of wallpaper that had poisoned Napoleon and led to his death. The colour that's mentioned in the poem is Sheila's green. It was invented in 1775. And this is called Fear of arsenical green. I've become obsessed with the wallpaper that may have killed Napoleon on St. Helena in the South Atlantic. Green wallpaper in Victorian parlours, where children died suddenly from suspected cholera or diphtheria. The green of underground lakes in small rooms with wood fires and damp, lichen-covered walls. An antique itch of poison under the skin. Colour leaking into the room like a tank filling up with weed. Fluorescent glass scent bottles on ornate mantelpieces, ferns and alligator prints on the chairs, skin papered over with blousy roses, trails of ivy, trellis of honeysuckle threaded with bluebirds. I feel it when I can't breathe, the green wallpaper pressing against my chest, like the stiff satin dyed with Sheila's green, those women wore to dance the polka, emerald wreaths bound into their hair. I've written a series of poems about invasive plants. I used to work as a gardener, and they're all plants that I've come across one way or another in people's gardens and often had to deal with. A lot of them are brought to this country by Victorian plant hunters as ornamental plants. I'm going to read 3 of them now. The first one you might know as Japanese knotweed, also known as Hancock's curse, Palopia japonica. The knotweed behind the garage is quietly uprooting the house. Donkey rhubarb, gypsy rhubarb, takeaway pain in Japanese. Spread by seed and rhizome, alternate heart-shaped leaves, its rib stem jointed and hollow. Deep roots, stretching taller than a man in the cellar with his arms up, changing a light bulb. Transplanted from the wild to a domestic garden in the days when I thought love could heal. Not knowing the damage would spread through floors, cracks in asphalt and concrete, into drains and sewage systems, able to withstand flood and drought, to travel through the bloodstream to the heart. Ragwort, Senecio jacobea. By river, by brook, by wood, by meadow, by moths, by butterflies, by bottles, by beetles, by bees, by moon, by cloud, by sun, by rain, staggerwort, cankerwort, stammerwort, mare's fart. By sulphur, by acid, by egg yolk, by daisy, by verge, by wayside, by neglected pasture, by pathway, by alley, by train track, by paddock, benweed, St. Jameswort, tansy ragwort, cushag. By glittering crown, by raggedy leaf, by gold star, by lightning bolt, by fierce wind, by hay, by animal spleen, by fairy transport to Ireland, by yellow horse spirit, dog standard, injurious weed, noxious weed, butterweed. By cinnabar moth, by Sussex emerald moth, by clouded knothorn moth, by gatekeeper butterfly, by striped spheriphoria, by pitcher-winged fly, stinking nanny, stinking ninny, stinking willy. By combine harvester, by cutting, by drying, by baling, by stomach, by liver, by rot, by fire, by earthquake, by flood, by plague. Ragwort, ragwort, ragewort, ragwort. This next one is Himalayan balsam, and the Latin name is Impatiens glandulifera. Where can I go now I wear the scent of the sea, once ornamental, brought to the botanical gardens as a trophy girl, a novelty to amuse the guests. Now an iron stem in a velvet sleeve. I flow through woodlands in the dark, wade into rivers and their tributaries by stealth, spread through private gardens and meadows like a rash. Candy pink with Botox lips, I gush across forbidden places in a flood of nectar, trailing bees, looking for home. Oh, follow me, and I will take you down those lost alleyways to the harbour, be your balm, liniment, salve, ointment, cure for bitterness, unrequited love, old age. My delicate neck will be crushed underfoot, one touch to detonate, and I explode. The title of this next poem is an old word for the county of West Yorkshire, and it's Thridings. I will not marry you now in the pale green octagonal Methodist hall in my fur gloves and laced-up boots. I will not marry you in a bodice of miniature fireflies sewn in backstitch with bricolage in a back room lit with paraffin heaters, where girls attach their fingers to white chiffon in the shadows as the late afternoon light licks the basement window. I will not marry you now in a lace dress of lizard's tongues with a backless swathe of gauze like the one in that junk shop display. I will not marry you now on that long lane in the Dales where I blocked the farm gate, unable to reverse, and had to be dragged out on a long rope. I will not marry you now on Ilkley Moor or on the high hills over Hepton Stall with a floating train edged with mildew, chartreuse lichen and dried sphagnum moss, carried by live shrews and woodlice. Nor will I marry you by the dry stone wall where we always picked bilberries, even in snow. I will not marry you in the pinfold where dog and hare have engraved their chase in concentric circles, etched forever like a copper ring. I will not be marrying you at all, not this leap year or the next, neither in a carriage drawn by mice, nor wearing glass or velour slippers made by moles, hemmed with my own hair. I will not, I will not, I will not. This next poem is about ladybirds, and some of you might remember, I think it was 1976 or 1977 when there was a plague of ladybirds. And I come from Suffolk, and I was living there at the time. And in Suffolk, we call ladybirds Bishy Barnabys, which is the name of this poem. There you are, little blood blister, Tupperware cup lid, little red shellac dome, little bivouac tent on rocky ground, little cochineal cap, little upside down scarlet elf's cup, little crimson spotted bubble car with a family of 4, their camping gear stored in the boot. Your undercarriage is a fold-up gazebo, ready to assemble when you flit from my fingertip, or when we sing to you, ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. I remember that summer by the big wheel when you all fell like red hailstones, like a blood shower, when you rattled like beads into gutters, blocked up drains, each exoskeleton an empty husk, dried up seed case. I watched men with brooms sweep brittle carapaces into piles, scoop thousands of you into buckets like the embers of a dying fire. This is the last poem I'm going to read, so I hope you have a great evening, and thank you very much for listening. This is called On Harlech Beach. A cracked crab shell on the sand opens up like the metal trunk dab-lined with tissue to hold his broken treasures. Inside is sky, pale blue, like one of his eyes, the other green. Blue as the corniced ceiling in our old house or the roof in the eaves of the Sistine Chapel. Then I leave behind my shore life, slip between layers of light. This is how it will be, I think. Collecting half-moon shells, brittle with what's gone, briefly admiring each one, then letting them fall. I walk on painted clouds for miles. There's a scape of purple mountains, a dog far off skating on water. When I turn to go back to shore, I'm lost, knowing no one. Shading my eyes from glare, I scan marram grass, get my bearings. There are the flip-flops I left on the sand, my pink towel, purse, and somewhere far away, my people. I follow tracks inland till I reach them, relaxed and sleepy on the blanket, rubbing in suntan cream, the picnic half eaten. If I broke open now, would I be blue inside? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you so much. Now we're going to hear from Ilse. Ilse Pedler lives in Cumbria, works part-time as a veterinary surgeon. Her first collection, Auscultation, was published in 2021 by Seren. She's the poet in residence at Sidmouth Folk Festival and one of the editors of Bending the Arc, a Substack of Thrutopian writing, which she just explained to us what that means. I'm sure she'll give you a clue, and it's worth having a look at, Bending the Arc. But here, with her poems, is Ilse Pedler.
Thank you very much. Yes, come over to Substack and check out what we're doing. You don't have to subscribe or anything, so that's okay. So thank you so much to the Poetry Business for this fantastic competition, and also thank you to the wonderful Kim Moore, who's the judge. Must have had a really hard job deciding on the order. So my pamphlet is called I Body, and it explores the events that happen to and within a woman's body over a lifetime, how trust can be sought and lost, how women process what's done to them, and what women do to themselves. There are poems about eating disorders, infertility, childbirth, menopause, and I'm just going to read a selection for you tonight. Some of them are different forms, and it just so happens the first three that I'm going to read are haibun. So what I might do is just repeat the haiku at the end, so it can sit with you a little longer. So I guess these poems have been written over 20 years, but have been a lifetime in the making. And I'm just going to read them straight through without an introduction because they kind of follow a timeline. The journey began in the bedroom with the rosebud wallpaper, dragging a chair to the tall boy to reach the bottle of cough medicine because good girls take their medicine. Then opening the door to the moon, making a silver lake of the landing, the rag rug a boat to their bedroom, and they were a silent shore. The journey continued wrapped in a blanket on my mother's lap, red lights blinking on the dashboard, comet trails of street lights through the windscreen, and her voice was far away, or perhaps it was the radio. Then there was the wrong turn, still on my mother's lap, but with a brightness in my eyes that left me seeing suns, and there was noise and cold and a drink this. But it was a trick, and tasted of the sea, so I spat it out. And my mother was holding me too tightly, and my father wasn't saying I was a good girl. He wasn't saying anything at all. Along the way was a man in a white coat talking about getting the medicine out. And I said, "You won't hurt me, will you?" And he said, no, I promise I won't hurt you. Then there was a snake that filled my mouth, forcing its way inside, and a choking and hands holding me down, and I couldn't speak. I could only scream. The last part of the journey was waking up on a bed, the white coat saying, you can take her home now. And I looked at him and whispered, you promised you wouldn't hurt me, but you lied. And the white coat said nothing, and my parents said nothing. And I felt something fall from somewhere. Spring blossom on the twisting road ahead, my dirty new shoes. Spring blossom on the twisting road ahead, my dirty new shoes. Lessons for young women. The first was a room where, disguised with darkness, he held a spotlight to her eye and asked questions about her boyfriend, watched the confusion play out on the screen of her retina, and where she smelt the garlic on his short breaths as he pressed her back against the hardness of the wall, and she felt another hardness pressed to her front. Where the nurse had left the room, where there was a corridor centimetres behind her full of people. No, was the word he whispered into the flare of her pupil. Go then. Where a door was opened and she was discarded into the bright hive of the hospital, where walking down the street she felt the pavement plunge under her feet. The second was in a street in a different country, a summer stroll to the cinema, a group of young men coming towards her, laughing, and a passing split-second touch that branded her nipple in an uninvited ember-hot shame 40 years long. The third was a swimming pool. The water, a glove she slipped into, holding and unholding her through familiar lengths. Hi, he said. You swim well. I used to be a coach. A couple of tips would improve your stroke. Her arm angled this way. Her body turned as she pushed off, just like that. Then slightly too long, and she rolled on the palm of his undressing, her breast released to the water's baffle. No, she said. Okay, I have to go now. Remember my lesson. Yes, she will. In a room, in a pool, on the street, on a beach, in the tube, in a pub, the flies unzipped, the bodies pressed against hers, the slaps, the grabs, the words, the looks. Her closed mouth, a fly buzzing on the inside of a window. Her closed mouth, a fly buzzing on the inside of a window. The glass thought. Every morning I wake and I am a thought encased in glass. The thought feels my ribs and the bones of my hips until it is satisfied, and then I am permitted to get out of bed. The thought looks at itself in the full-length mirror for a long time. It turns this way and that, lifts its arms above its head, sucks in breath, assesses millimetres. The thought weighs me, says, just a little more, nearly there. Then the thought decides on the clothes I should wear. On the days when I have failed, I am directed to put on the jumper that comes almost to my knees and makes me a shapeless thing. On the days when the thought is pleased, I'm allowed to wear the skinny jeans to show everyone how beautiful the thought is, and to let people admire it through the glass. The thought tells me how the tight fabric makes our stomach look flat, how straight and long it makes our legs. People look through the glass but say nothing. The thought says it's because they are jealous. The thought comes with me to work and walks me to the gym every lunchtime. It says, keep on running, just another 5 minutes. Feel how good it is to sweat. The thought tells me to drink water, that water is good for us. It is made of nothing. It is clear like glass. The thought and I walk home the long way after work. It says, see how fit you have become, how much energy you have, and how happy I make you. I nod. I see only through the glass of the thought. The thought feeds me. It is the only food I need. Beauty displayed in the butterfly's outstretched wings. Through its stomach, a pin. Beauty displayed in the butterfly's outstretched wings. Through its stomach, a pin. I searched for them when they left. In the morning, in the usual places, bathroom, bedroom. I turned back the duvet, but the sheets stared whitely. I checked at work too. People said I seemed distracted. They asked, "Have you lost something?" I didn't know how to answer. I missed the regularity of their visits, how we'd reached an understanding over the years, how they never outstayed their welcome. I felt abandoned, if I'm honest, unsecured without the cycle of their appearance. How could I know what to feel? I looked in the bathroom cabinet at the supplies I'd kept in case they returned. I didn't know how long to save them. There was no one to ask. And this is the final poem, and thank you once again to the Poetry Business, and really looking forward to hearing the winners read their poems. My body is a map of all my journeys. Knuckles of vertebrae keeping apart chevrons on every endless motorway. Breast tattooed with contours describing all the peaks I've ever climbed. Stomach, a sand-duned beach where the oceans break saltily, and offshore, reaching arms of wind turbines point lazily at me and me and me. My body is a set of architect's drawings, cross-sections of foundations in fine black lines, cutaways of walls, depths of insulation, sole plates, air spaces, and that south elevation, well thumbed, its outlines of shrubs, an occasional well-placed tree, the picket fence. My body is a bucket of all my self-deceptions, the one with the hole in the bottom, dear Liza, dear Liza. It is the only body that knows this, and some days chooses to hold up a mirror in which I am too ashamed to look. My body is every fading silver line on my wrists. My body is a collage of all the bodies, a cutting room floor of snip bits, a waste bin of Botox and collagen fillers, photoshopped to perfection, held hostage in every magazine, on every screen, paid for with every teenage girl's dream. My body is a vessel with many openings. Cord, pierced, gagged, picked up and put down. My body is a record of all the hands upon it. My body is space and no space, has been documented and deleted. My body has become unreliable. Parts of me have disappeared. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elsa. Yeah, you're right. It's very, very difficult to to make decisions about poems, but some of them, these 4 readers this evening were just inevitable. That was wonderful, reading. Thank you so much.
Yes, really strong, and the winners will be are in these pamphlets that we'll show you. But the Sally and Ilse will also be in the north and in the online offshoot east of the north. So some of the poems that you've heard tonight, you'll be able to read in that way. It's my pleasure now to introduce Anina Zeng Hardy. Anina is in New York at the moment. She's joining us from there. It's a little bit a different time, of course, 3 o'clock-ish. And but she's from Sichuan and New York, and usually currently it says writing between London and Newcastle. Travelled poet. Her poems and short fiction are forthcoming or have appeared in lots of magazines, including Joyland, Honey Literary, and Bath Mag. She's a member of the South Bank Centre New Poets Collective. And this is the pamphlet that we're very proud to have published. And Kim Moore said of when she chose this that this is a wild ride through form and language. She couldn't stop thinking about these poems, she said, especially a sestina, which is scorching in its condemnation of capitalism, and a beautiful meditation on time. I don't know that you were thinking of reading Sestina, Anina.
I can if it's a crowd if it's a crowd.
Yeah.
It's a #1 hit. Jordan Hayward also said that these poems are at once intimate, political, and bracingly comedic. It's wonderful that you're here to read for us, Anina. Thank you very much. Reading from Abeyance, here is Anina Zhang Hardy.
Thank you so much, Anne and Peter, and the previous readers and the future reader and everyone involved. This has been such a pleasure to have a pamphlet published with Poetry Business. So I'm going to read, a few poems. Okay, so I'll start with one called The Sea. The sea, my mother calls it, and I try not to think of the sea. The sea, it exists where I cannot see it. Even when I cannot see it, it seethes, it's there, just there. Can you see it? I used to say about the sea, nose against the car's window as the trees hit it, the sea, the huge all-encompassing sea. I'm sitting across from my mother. For months, I have been unable to look her in the eyes. When they look at me, always the water there she cannot spill. In the waiting room, it's not just touching someone's hand that's unbearably intimate. It's seeing them touch their own hand. I wonder about death, the myth of it, the balcony seat in Sleep's amphitheater, from where I can see not the expressions of those on stage, but their fragility. And then the next one I'll read, and it's fun to flip it over because the lines are so long. So if you do get the book, you'll be reading it in multi-different directions, is the aforementioned Sestina. Sestina written when I was a job. Winter is when the sky is dark, both when I get to and out of work. I'm always ensconced in darkness in the center of global alienation. The rich of the world launder through these crumbling streets, their primary job. What has more human rights than me? My money. What I sell to my boss is cheap like foreclosed property. These days, I'm made of time units. My repository can be filled with labor beneficial to capital or useless to it, my poems. The deterministic coffin of life with no capital reminds me that when I die, after illness takes me, when I can no longer work, I'd like my body burned, waged hour by hour, waged against us, turned to chunky dust by time. The owners want us to like them, provide us coffee but not benefits to prevent our alienation, make friends, not a union. Some days I leave every place I enter, even work, with less money. To their face we smile, behind their back we talk shit about the owners like it's our job. The leaders of the free world say just shut up and make someone else their money. Practice your civilized values and work meaninglessly. Better yet, kill meaninglessly. Time, the strict matrix I am held in, is up. I better get back to work. But I still can't help thinking. With the might of your hand you persecute me, wailed Job, while being taught a lesson about powerlessness. A penny thrown into God's cap, it all sucks. Some look around as though where they are, where they've always lived, is an alien nation, when they're the ones to suffer alienation. The thing about suffering is that in it, there's a lot of money. As he was escaping the burning coal mine, his dying friends reached up as if for his hand, capitalism, a ghost story. I'm trying to say our exploitation is constructed. This time I could end the poem saying you must change your life, or that we must make revolution our job, and in the end, it should be the same work. It's winter again. If we think about it in geological time, I'm scarcely different from the original unsplit cell that started us all. I live in the same second as Job, asking God why be born at all, if made to suffer so. After each shift, return to lava, all my work. The next poem that I will read was written in response to a sort of challenge to write an Ars Poetica. I started off writing as a fiction writer, and then my stories started getting like shorter and shorter and less characters, less and less dialogue, weirder and weirder. And I kind of realized like no plot. And I realized that they were probably poems actually. And so to sort of cement my status as a poet, I decided to write an Ars Poetica, and it's called Surprise Bug. And it is also about a real encounter I had with a bug. Surprise bug. Body not unlike your own, desperate, twitchy, small in the scheme of things. Body which climbed with its many feathery legs down your arm, a sensation pleasant, then repulsion you felt, a jolt, disproportionate, when the tickle leapt from your arm into the sink, and you saw body which never hurt you, body you watched like an omniscient narrator, trying and failing to escape the sink. Body you didn't want to touch, though of course you had. What is it about knowledge that seduces us into displeasure? The sexiest thing to know about somebody is nothing, your friend says, while giving up on dating. Body in this friend's rented sink. This body a bridge for bugs. Bodies you spare, but only because you think, when you're dead, you're even worse. Body which, by the time you came back with the rescuing sheet of paper, was gone. Then, body holding nothing but the page. And then the next poem that I'm going to read is actually, I'm pretty sure the very first poem I ever wrote. Like aside from, I think, some like very necessary to me at the time, poems that I wrote when I was probably like 11, 12, that it's good, they're all lost to time. This one is called Waterlogged. After getting the correct diagnosis, I went straight from the hospital to the train station to enjoy a medium-length journey. 15 hours is the minimum time needed to really unfurl on my bunk. From the boiling water tap, fill several cups of instant noodles. Eat enough smushed in plastic tofu off a stick. Sleep as though a loving hand is rocking my cradle. Wake with yet more transit in store. I've always loved trains. At 21, I was just old and ornery enough to begin thinking things like, this was more fun when I was a child, when no one had phones to live temporarily within instead. In the arrived-at city, we stayed on a street where row after row of wood workshops opened onto the sidewalk to display their wares, coffins shiny as cellos, this before the shortage. A half-finished one overturned and propped on its stilts. The man looked so much like he was building a small boat. At night, drunk in a crowd, I disappeared into a toilet. By accident, flushed my phone. She noticed it in the bowl and fished it out. The light disappeared from the screen beautifully. I clutched it to my chest, lurched to the floor, found myself lying prostrate as a sleeping baby does. Then, the hands on my back, in my armpits. It never did turn on again, the phone. On the train ride back, it would have been of no use to me anyway. Violently ill the whole way, primordial, crouched and shivering, the way a sick body can tell you, but really, you ain't shit. I'd taken to running my fingers lightly over my sternum. It soothed me, the feel of the tumor growing beneath my skin, the perfect rounded dome of it, its centeredness, the way it throbbed at times, like a reminder of its volcanic promise. Her face I never saw. So tightly closed were the pair of heaving eyes. My phone, I sobbed. I'm so stupid, I can't believe it. Anonymous to each other, just some girl I was, just some girl was she, left in my mouth, a strand of her long hair. The next poem I'll read is a cento and a pantoum. And so it's lines taken from poems that I really liked. And I was at the time working a job that was very soul-sucking. A different job, actually, to the one that is referenced in the Sistina. But I had an hour break in the middle of the night. It was a job that I worked into late, very hours, into the late, early hours. And yeah, I had an hour break and I would read poems during that break. This was during the kind of time where I was starting to make my move into poetry, if you will. So this is sort of, yeah, a love letter to the poems that kept me going. Reading poems to relocate my will to live at 1 a.m. while on my 1 hour unpaid break midway through my waitressing shift at the members only lounge in Mayfair. No, I will write. Yes, I will breed. No, I won't love. Whatever I care for, someone else loves it. Such stupid, simple things, food and cherry wine, to touch someone. Whole years will be spent underneath these impossible stars. Whatever I care for, someone else loves it. But longing has drunk my blood. Whole years will be spent underneath these impossible stars your heart hisses in its cage. But longing has drunk my blood. I could not return to the body that contained only the literal world. Your heart hisses in its cage, still possible, and still possibly. I could not return to the body that contained only the literal world. No, I will write. Yes, I will breed. No, I won't love. Still possible, I'm still possibly. Such stupid, simple things, food and cherry wine, to touch someone. And then the last poem that I'll read is actually a new poem, so it's not in the pamphlet, but in sort of revisiting these poems that I had been writing to sort of process an experience of illness in my early 20s, I've been having a kind of uncanny valley experience because after 5 years of living in the UK, after 5 years of being in remission, I sort of suddenly found myself back in New York, where I was living, when I was writing the poems that were in this pamphlet, and sort of going through the medical industrial complex once again. And yeah, just, feeling a lot of things about it. And so this is a poem that I actually wrote a few days ago, but kind of, yeah, in the spirit of sharing the poems that are in this pamphlet and kind of the experience and spirit that they were written from. This is still kind of an extension of the pamphlet, even though it's not in it. So this one is called PET Scan Theodicy. The heat map of appointment waiting times at the public hospital shows every department in crisis. My doctor looks me in the eyes and tells me he does not have the resources to treat me here. So I call and yes, I'll hold and refer myself to elsewhere in the city. In the hospital named after a Koch brother, the billions of past, present, and future deaths his anti-climate change lobbying and money cause, I feel them breathing at my back, gun to my head, oil slick of sweat. My first few PET scans were so unpleasant, but not how you think. And it's not because in a sexual setting I enjoy being told to put my hands above my head and that I cannot move. I know you must be feeling uncomfortably claustrophobic, the tech said to me when he saw me squirming, and I couldn't explain even to myself this feeling of aliveness only in my crotch suddenly. Think of your grandfather, think of your dead grandfathers, I told myself, and it didn't help as much as I would have liked. I feel nothing but anger today, code switching into gleaming rich people's faces, the charity case of my body, the borrowed time of my life. Before it is too late, I want health to be more than visceral, daily contact with evil. Show us mercy, show us mercy, show us mercy. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to hearing Ian read.
Thank you so much, Anina. It's really appreciated.
They're so strong, those poems, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the new poem is very much part of the collection. So well, we can put it straight away, I think, in the ebook version of the pamphlet. And when we do a new edition, as it sells out,
Yeah, it belongs, doesn't it? It really belongs. And the world of work and exploitation of labour, and which, moves us into our final reader this evening is Ian Harker, who is in Leeds, in Yorkshire. So we call that Leeds, can't we? New
Yeah.
York,
New
Yorkshire, from New
Yorkshire.
York to Yorkshire,
York.
yeah. Ian is a poet from Leeds, a director of Leeds Litfest and communications officer at the Leeds Library. His pamphlet A to Z of Superstitions was published by Yaffle Press in 2023, along with a debut pamphlet and collection from Templar. He was shortlisted for the Tempest Prize, judged by Andrew Macmillan and Patience Agbarby, and was 2024 Ilkley Litfest New Northern Poet. I'll just say some of the things that that Kim Moore said about this collection, Gain Access. Written from the viewpoint of a social housing officer, we get an insight into the emotional toll it takes to do a job where you want to help people, but instead become part of an under-resourced system that is often casually cruel and fails the people it should be protecting. These poems are full of humour, keen observation, and insight about society and our roles within it. So I'm very happy to welcome Ian Harker.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Anne and Peter, and thank you so much to Anina and Sally and Ilse for your readings. We've heard a lot about work, actually, in one way or another, this evening, and Gain Access is about work. In 2019, I left the bookshop that I'd been working in for about 15 years, and went to work in social housing. Actually, my first day was the first day of the Boris Johnson government in 2019. Gain Access. If this was a painting, it will be called Golgotha, Hannon Heights. The joiner is drilling the lock and joking with the plumber about the smell coming through the letterbox. I am standing well back, ready with my lanyard and hoping that they've done a flip, hoping that the place is empty and that the sink isn't backed up the same as the washing machine that's leaking stale water into the flat downstairs, that they've left the sofa that was the only furniture anyway, that they've binned the lighters and foils, that there aren't a load of kids' toys piled up behind the door, and that there aren't two people passed out in the bedroom, two people who say they never heard the braying on the door or the drill screaming into the lock, two people who say they never read the letters and that they don't feel the cold anyway. I'm hoping that they've taken down the stained pink bedsheet hung across the kitchen window along with its pink light, that one of them isn't standing on the stairs screaming at me to get out of his fucking house. And shortly after that incident, a colleague said to me, "Welcome to housing." It's 3 a.m. and I'm lying awake, worrying about people's smoke alarms and test results. I woke up convinced that someone was fly tipping waterlogged mattresses on top of me. My name is the same as the last housing officer and the housing officer before. I am not as bad as the last housing officer. I am almost as bad as the last housing officer. I am worse than the last housing officer. I am the same as all the other housing officers. It's as if they don't have a housing officer. It was better when they didn't have a housing officer. They might as well not have a housing officer. The previous housing officers lean over me just when I'm getting back to sleep and look accusing and sad. Meanwhile, my phone is ringing. It's switched off, but it's still ringing. I hear it ringing when it isn't ringing. I feel it vibrate when it isn't vibrating. The voices of the respective phone networks tell me that the number I am calling is unavailable. The voices of the respective phone networks tell me to please try again later. I listen to voicemails no one left telling me that I am in the wrong job, that they have been trying to get hold of me for days. You are my housing officer. You're not my housing officer. Trees are falling over gleefully onto gable ends. Long tails are getting into people's kitchens through amazingly small gaps left by joiners. The long tails are living their best lives and are carrying their young between their long, sharp teeth. People's gardens are filling up inexplicably with water. Fences are blowing over just for the fun of it, and everyone wants to know what I am going to do about it, including my team leader. The whole world is moving house a week on Wednesday, and it's got a van booked, and it's taken time off work, and this is my responsibility. And so are the two greyhounds called Mercedes and Benz, and the two Rottweilers called Chaos and Asbo, and the bearded dragon called Susan, and the parrot that sings Hey Fatty Bum Bum. No one has permission for anything. A big part of the job was supporting people who had been sold enormous quantities of debt that they could never possibly hope to sell off, hope to pay off. The letters are waiting for you when you get home. You step over the letters in the street. You step over the letters when you go out. The letters are stuffed in a drawer. The letters are falling down the stairs. The letters are falling like leaves off the trees. The letters are pushing their way up through the ground. The letters come through the letterbox in the middle of the night. The letters turn from bruised yellow to welt red. Every last one of the letters is confidential. The letters must not be ignored. The letters must be opened by you alone. Under no circumstances must you open the letters. The letters appear in photos you took on holiday. The letters are hiding in plain sight on TV dramas and game shows. You binge watch the letters. You scroll past the letters. You drive past the letters on billboards. You are always carrying some of the letters. Your hands are turning into letters. Your mouth is gummed shut like a letter. Your mouth is torn open like a letter. You are frightened other people can't see the letters. You are frightened someone else will see them. All you have to do is open the letters. Opening the letters is the thing that scares you the most. It was a job where wins came after a lot of long, hard work, but when you got them, you felt really appreciative of very small steps, including this poem about a lady who had worked in a hospital, the LGI, the Leeds General Infirmary, all her life, and needed more support than she would at first accept. Sharps. She had a house full of stuff that fell off the back of an ambulance. 35 years at the LGI, and she used skin grafting blades for geranium cuttings, bandage scissors for trimming the rind off bacon, a bedpan for the dog's water bowl, kidney dishes for black brie. It took months to convince her she needed more help, but one day she told the newly qualified nurse, "That's the neatest cannula I've ever seen." Second to last poem now. A poem that, in a sense, reflects on the fire at Grenfell Tower in London, where 72 people were killed. And as part of the inquiry into Grenfell Tower, an email was produced from the Conservative deputy leader of the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, Councillor Rock Fielding Mellon. He wasn't talking about the safety or otherwise of the cladding. He was talking about its colour. And he said, I think we should stick with the brushed aluminium or battleship grey, not champagne. And the poem contrasts the fact that they built a swimming pool between two apartment blocks in London. Sky pool. Here on the banks of the Thames, the sky could be water. Bodies between the high-rise buildings could be swimming or falling. There's no telling if the shadows in the clouds are people who live in the building, if their names appear on doorbells and council tax records, if a neighbour would recognise the sound of their footsteps down the corridor past their apartment, where in an emergency no one would be instructed to stay. Heat hammering on their door. They might be accounted for, or they might be staying for a few days, sleeping on a friend's floor. They might be as fragile as a piece of paper floating in the pool. They might be turning into paper, fire rising through their smile. Just for a moment, as they kick to the bottom, the swimmers are falling. Falling between the buildings, past bedrooms and landings, plunging past empty stairwells on this hot day with the river beside them emptying its pockets. How long can they hold their breath? The roar in their ears getting louder. Thank you very much, everyone. Finally, when you leave housing or change your patch, you write down a list of things for your successor to remember. And on my last week in housing, I opened a blank Word document on my laptop and sat there for a long time thinking, where do I start? Handover notes. I try to explain about number 79 and the cats, about number 9 and the mattress on the floor of the living room. I go into detail about number 6, how everything has to go through his sister if she'll answer the phone, and how the ball's in his court now. Then there's number 12, how he hasn't got long after 56 years together, and when the worst comes, she only has to say the word. How the Rottweiler cross called Chaos is a softie. How the guy at number 17 isn't. About the parrot at number 1 with no permission who sings Kid Creole and the Coconut. About number 33 who, in the 67 years he's lived there, has filled the house from floor to ceiling with books. Also, there's the portal to another dimension in number 12's bathroom, which repairs won't do anything about. What to round off with? If you don't tell the guy on the corner not to park on the corner, the bins don't get emptied and your phone won't stop ringing. The fruit trees on the estate date from when the houses were built, and the blossom blows all over the roads in spring. I try to explain. I try to explain. I try to get it all in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ian and Anina and Ilse and Sally. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And we've had a wonderful evening. Our competition is running once again now, and we, mainly we should thank these four for sending their poems to us, for us to read and for us to enjoy working with them. So, please do that, because we kind of rely on people sending us poems for the North and for the competition. And this is how you, well, end up. No, they're not ended up. We're looking forward to seeing what all of them are going to do next. But the whole point of this is, for us to have this kind of evening where we get to enjoy and see what's been published.
That alarm's alarming, isn't it?
It's scary.
The events.
Ilse Pedler.
Yeah, I want to echo what Anne said, because it's been an extraordinary evening, and all of the poems are really remarkable, I think. The 2 winning pamphlets are available. There's a code, isn't there? You should be able to see to get the collections post free. And the reading that was scheduled is why the current competition, the new competition, has had to be put back. It's partly because Wordsworth Trust Grassmere was flooded, and so the reading that in-person event and prize giving that was supposed to happen in October will now be happening probably at the end of February or early March. We'll let everybody know, but that's one of the reasons that we've had to move the competition closing date for the current competition, which again is probably judged by Kim Moore. And also, I want to remind you that the North magazine, and free of charge, of course, East of the North, will have poems from all of these poets. So please do go online and find that.
So once again, thank you to them for turning up from New York and Cumbria and everywhere else for this lovely evening. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.